Well, it's November the 25th. It's 2:30 in the afternoon. I'm finally getting around to getting my lunch. It's the coldest day we've had so far, -7 this morning. And I've been out for my hike. I try to get in a 10-kilometer hike every day that it's not raining or snowing or something. So I'm kind of late getting back to get lunch, but I started a fire in the cabin before I went, and I was gone for, I don't know, 2 hours and a quarter, I guess, something like that. When I came back, the fire was practically out. I thought there'd be enough coals left to get the fire going again, but I had to use more kindling wood. So I've been up to the house for another hour while the cabin continues to warm up, but I was just in there. It's got it up to a nice 22 degrees inside. And I think before I take you in the cabin, I'll show you something inside the hoop house, and then I'll go in the cabin to have my lunch. Well, if you watched my previous video on me trying to winterize and overwinter my 2 fig trees in here, in that video I put out the electric cable, whatever you call it there, the heat tape, I guess they call them. And I just covered the 2 trees with a spun-bonded row cover, 2 or 3 layers. Yeah, the first night it kept it up well above freezing under there, but I thought it was going to be a problem as it gets colder this winter. So I have 2 old comforters, bed comforters in the house that have been stuck away in the back of a closet for years. Summer weight. They're not a heavy, thick comforter like a duvet or whatever that you would use in the wintertime. Anyway, I have 2 of them, as I said. I put 1 over top of each one, and that seems so far to be doing the trick. Last night, our coldest night, -7, and that was -7 up at the house on the digital thermometer, and I just checked in here on the Mini-Max thermometer, and the coldest in here has been -7 as well, and that had to have been last night because it was the coldest night we've had so far. -7 air temperature inside the hoop house, and under the comforters there, the little sensor said it stayed at +4. So that's an 11-degree spread. No doubt when we get our coldest days this winter, it will go below freezing even under the covers there, but fig trees can tolerate a certain amount of below 0 centigrade temperatures. And I don't know whether it works or not. We won't know until spring, but so far I'm pleased with what the cable is doing. Right now I think I just checked, it was up to 6 or 7 degrees again inside of there, even though the sun is low enough in the sky now that it's really not heating anything in here. So anyway, there's that. Let's go over to the cabin. Well, it's nice and toasty warm in here. It's time, I guess, to add another log to the fire, so to speak. I don't think I mentioned earlier, but if you watch some of my earlier videos where I made the fire starters out of the dryer lint and paraffin wax, they really work very well. Just one of those and a little bit of kindling wood, and the fire is off and going. Draft up a little bit there, I guess, to get that going a little better. Well, lunch is going to be a vegetarian stew, I guess. Made it several days ago. Problem with me when I make something like that is I tend to make a large stock pot full of it. So that wouldn't be a good place for those either. And once the large stock pot of it is made, I end up eating it for lunch for the better part of a week. I say stew rather than soup because it's a thick thing. There's a lot of barley in it, And then I have this mixture of different kinds of lentils, and I think it also has some split peas in it. And I have another mixture that's different kinds of rice. There's brown rice and red rice, wild rice, and 2 or 3 kinds of white rice. Anyway, it tends to make rather a thick soup or stew. And I added to that some of the vegetables from my garden: turnip, potato, onion, garlic. As I say, the issue is it makes far too much. And I don't care for that stuff if you freeze it. So it gets heated up and eaten until it's gone, I guess. I get kind of bored with it before the week's over with. I think what I'm going to do now is set the camera up and take some footage of the birds at the bird table outside of the cabin here. There's been quite a few chickadees around, an occasional blue jay, but seems to be mostly chickadees. And then following that, just to close this off, there's 2 or 3 things that I'd like to show you that's of interest in the winter garden or late fall garden, whatever. Some of the plants that I like just because they produce berries and whatever that, well, I guess the birds and other animals enjoy them in the wintertime, but they're great for fall color as well. So let's have a little look at the birds, and then we'll go out and look at some of those other things. Well, I've had lunch and sat around and read and enjoyed the fire for a while, and now I'm out to give you a few little short clips of some of the things of interest that are still in the garden. If you remember that wasp's nest, that was the one that had a lot of activity not too far here from the cabin this summer. Well, it's abandoned now, and I guess by the looks of it, the wind and whatever has tore the bottom out of it a little bit, but it's quite safe to collect them this time of year if you want to. I've done it in the past, but I don't have any desire to do it now, I guess. But it's no longer inhabited, and it won't be inhabited again next year. I suspect by the time our winter's over, it'll be pretty much shambles. Now, this is American Bittersweet. A lot of people won't grow it because they talk about it being invasive. Well, I guess I'm just the opposite. I have a love of invasive things. It's very pretty this time of year once the berry-like thing opens up and you can see the 4 seeds inside. I've also heard that most people don't think that wildlife eat them. Well, something eats mine. They disappear by early winter, but I'll give you a look back at the size of the thing here a bit. It's growing on a sort of a metal trellis here. I don't know if you can see up at the very top there, sort of see a darker cluster up here. That is a robin's nest. In the summertime, when it has its full foliage, you can't see the nest at all. For the last 2 or 3 years, I assume it's the same robin. Comes and builds in it every year. And this is Barbary. I have 3 different varieties. I won't bother to show you the other 2. They have, well, similar types of red berries on them. I don't remember the name of any of the varieties, but they certainly produce a lot of fruit for wildlife to eat. And this is Firethorn, Pyracanthus. I've had the shrub for many years, bought it at the Royal Botanical Gardens in Ontario, and remember carrying it home on a flight. Probably now since 9/11 you wouldn't be allowed to do that, but it was much smaller at the time. And it seems to be at the, well, it's probably the extreme edge of its hardiness zone here. Some years it's better than others, but this year it has some fruit on it. And that's another thing that people will tell you, that wildlife don't eat them. Well, something happens to mine. The berries are all gone by quite early in the winter, so wildlife around here of some sort enjoys them. And this is what they call the burning bush, Euonymus alata, I think. Proper name for the thing. I always think that the berries on this look like little Christmas lights. And once again, they disappear quite early in the year. I can get this swung around just a bit here. Sorry about that. I was swinging the camera around and hit one of the many buttons on the side of the thing, and I really don't know what it is that they do, but I lost you. Quite low to the ground, and I didn't notice it in the summer because once again there would have been leaves all around it. There's a bird's nest. I presume probably another robin. A lot of robins that raise their young around my property here. My bird video, one of my previous videos here, the first bird video of the fall, someone commented on the apples in the background. So I'll show you this in case you haven't seen it before. This is called a pumpkin sweet apple tree. One very strange apple tree. They're quite good. They're more a storage apple. It's an old heirloom variety. Great for pies and applesauce and all that sort of thing. But the strange thing about it is the apples do not fall off. Now, there are apples on the ground here, yes. Some of them do fall off. But what you see on there right now, most of them will still be hanging on there come spring. They haven't frozen enough yet that they've turned into rotten brown bags, I call them, but that will happen soon. And early in the spring, when the cedar waxwings and the robins return, they both tackle that tree and tear them apart. I don't know if they're just eating some of the flesh that's on the inside or if they're eating the seeds or what, but they get eaten anyway come spring. And this time of year, some of the blue jays and whatever will sit on a limb and peck at them. And this last of all here, thank you for watching, this is a holly, a deciduous holly. It actually is in the ilex family. It loses all of its leaves in the fall, and even when it has its leaves, they don't look like those glossy holly leaves. The common name for it is winterberry. And it's just the bare branches with these lovely red berries on it in earlier part of winter anyway, until whatever bird it is that enjoys them finds it and eats it. Well, thank you very much for watching.